It takes no effort to say that I love, honor, and value women. Women are absolutely the strongest beings that I know. However, through history, women have worked hard to have their voices heard. Whether in the church, the home, the business world, politics, or as activists, women have worked hard. And they've worked hard to achieve little or no recognition for their efforts. For instance, during the World War I, most women were barred from voting or serving in combat. And when they did serve, as depicted in the powerful and inspiring movie 6888, they were met with adversity, segregation, humiliation, and prejudice. When we look at this movie, we see that this large all Black women's Army Corps with some Caribbean and Mexican descent was resilient, overcame racism while fulfilling their duties. It took courage to face the adversity and accomplish the goal of getting the mail delivered to lift the morale of the men. Everyone else was unsuccessful in accomplishing this task, even the White Women's Army Corps. However, many of you may recognize that sometimes there are problems created that are waiting for your organizational skills, your tenacity, your anointed self to serve and shine. And when this opportunity occurs, and when opportunities were withheld from women to have meaningful roles in society, World War II opened a door for women. When the war sent out our men off to war, the role shifted for women. Women were able to serve their countries, gain more rights and independence. And with millions of men away from home, women filled manufacturing and agriculture positions on the home front. Others provided support on the front lines as nurses, doctors, ambulance drivers, translators, and in rare occasions on the battlefield. On one observer, he wrote that American women do anything they are given to do, that their hours are long, their tasks are hard, that for them there is small hope of medals and citations and glittering homecoming parades. But women are resilient. Resilient women are individuals who demonstrate the ability to bounce back from adversity, maintain optimism, and persevere in the face of challenges. They are characterized by a combination of personal traits, including emotional regulation, a positive mindset, and a growth oriented perspective. Resilient women can see the bigger picture and recognize that life has its ups and downs. So, how do women recover from life's ups and downs, from rejection and marginalization? Women must work with purpose and confidence to demonstrate the strength to embody fearlessness that does not succumb to the lack of feminism or vulnerability. In other words, becoming manly is not the prerequisite to fulfilling your purpose, but you will need to be confident in who you are when others do not take you seriously. Women must embody that failure does not mean life is over. It does not mean that you can't get back up or that there are no do overs. When we look at Eve's life, the woman in the Bible, we witness how she listened to the baiting of the voice contrary to God's instructions. And while Eve was not privy to the conversation between Adam and God, she is the answer for people to believe that when women should not lead, should not minister, and should remain in a submissive lower place than man, she's the answer. And if that is true, then I believe that because women are so strong, creative, and intuitive, that if women created by God could turn the world upside down, as Angela Bassett said so eloquently, then women can also turn the world right side up again. How do I know that? Because women work with purpose and they work with confidence. So let's start with purpose. In the dictionary, purpose is the reason something is done or the reason something was created. In Genesis 2:26, we see that God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." So God purposefully and intentionally creates humankind to be in his likeness. Likeness is the resemblance of God. It is the qualities of being alike. In God's mind, he envisioned male and female having a likeness to him, qualities of fruitfulness, authority, justice, strength, decisiveness, and righteousness. Therefore, that woman was not a second thought. She was always part of God's equation for ruling over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. The text goes on to say, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. The purpose of mankind was to rule, to walk in authority. Women, you have purpose. Don't you reduce yourself to what society says about the place or the purpose of a woman. I want to check in with you right now and ask, for what purpose were you created? Why? Because there is a reason for your existence. There is a purpose for your strength. There is a place for you to rule. That is why you bounce back when you've been beaten down. It's because the purpose has not been fulfilled. And you don't have a choice but to rise to the occasion that God has called you to. I know that sounds complex, but I want you to tell your sister, rise back up because you've got purpose. There is a calling on your life that must be fulfilled. Remember, 17 million pieces of mail was accomplished in 90 days, and God purposely created you. This means that when you see yourself, you should see God. And if the only thing you can see is my curves, my ability to cook, keep home, and have babies, you are missing the fullness of who I am. Maybe that is why we can't hook up, connect, because you cannot appreciate what I bring to the table because I have been fashioned after God. Ladies, that person just can't handle the God in you. That person can't see your purpose because they are caught up in the outward appearance or a false perception of who you are. Shirley Chisholm, my girl, the first woman and woman of color to run for president of the United States, once said that tremendous amounts of talent are being lost to our society just because the talent wears a skirt. Sisters, let those folks know, don't be fooled by my skirt. I've got purpose all up in here. The Bible says that man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. The other quality that women work with is confidence. We understand that confidence in the English language means something that you can rely on. It is when someone has a firm trust. Women must have confidence in who they are and who they were created to be. In Genesis 2:22, the literal translation states, "And Jehovah, God builds up the rib which he hath taken out of man into a woman and brings her in unto the man." In Jewish and Christian traditions, a rib is primarily symbolic of creation, particularly in this text. It represents the unity, closeness of man and woman, as Eve is described as bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh by Adam. Yet, in Genesis 1:26 through 27, we see that God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and every creature that crawls upon the earth." Women, you must have confidence in your created being. God created you from the rib, but He fashioned you to be a support system. He made you suitable as a co laborer with man. It does not matter how you are treated, how you are overlooked, or how you are minimized. God made you suitable for diverse situations and complications. He has provided all that you need to be successful in Him and in society. So the Lord encourages you to be who He called you to be with confidence. You may have pulled from the rib cage, but God has established you as the backbone. How so, Dr. B? Well, the ribs were created to protect the vital organs in anatomy. The primary function of the backbone, also known as the spinal column, is to provide structural support and protection for the spinal cord. The backbone also enables movement and flexibility and helps maintain an upright posture. Come on, come in here with me. You know where I'm going. So, women, you came from the rib bone, but God has positioned you in some places to be the structural support and protection from the rib bone to the backbone of the nation, in your home, in the educational system, in the healthcare system, in the workforce, in the churches. Come on, women, tell the truth. If it wasn't for the women in the church, the pastor's aide would have no aid, and the building fund, no funds. All night prayer would last an hour. If it wasn't for women in business, contracts would not be written, executed, and completed. You have to take that pride. If it wasn't for women in science, the sending of and landing of space rockets would not have occurred safely. If it wasn't for women in the entrepreneur sphere, we wouldn't have the products we need to look our best. If it wasn't for Deborah, Barack would not have gone into the war and been victorious. If it wasn't for Hannah taking the accusations that she was drunk when she was confidently pouring her heart out to God, there would not have been the prophet Samuel to set up the lineage of David and Jesus. If it wasn't for Mary, there would not have been the birth of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. These women were able to fulfill their assignment because they had confidence in their purpose and their calling. And please take note, it wasn't without a struggle. It cost them something. Let's be truthful. Many can tolerate you when they are dealing with your gift of beauty or cooking and keeping house, but they can't handle your calling. You being the helper, the counterpart, the suitable one. A rib bone woman is strong, a strong woman, and stands up for herself. But a backbone woman is a stronger woman who stands up for everybody else. As Dr. Miles Monroe said one point in time, whatever you give a woman, she is going to multiply it. If you give her sperm, she'll give you a baby. If you give her a house, she'll give you a home. If you give her groceries, she'll give you a meal. If you give her a smile, she'll give you her heart. She multiplies and enlarges what is given to her. Somebody needs to say thank you for the women. So I'm going to encourage you, be fruitful and multiply, not the drama, but the dream, not the cattiness, but the classiness, not the brashness, but the boldness. Shift from being the rib bone to the backbone. Be encouraged today. And most of all, be authentically you.